You guys, should we do a little poll to start out with? Like, who's in the audience? Female founders? Raise your hand. Cool.
Yeah, nice.
Book enthusiasts, people that want to write a book. Any other big topics that we're okay? Well, Rebecca freaking Minkoff, you guys. That's why we're here. Needs no introduction. We all bought tickets to be here. I would just say that the saying "never meet your heroes" is not true when it applies to Rebecca, because you will just find that she is leaps and bounds better than you ever could have imagined. She's just a good woman, a designer, an author, and a really good friend. And so I thank you for being that. And I wanted to sort of just start with this idea that every time we talk, you are super chill. And I've seen you in so many business settings, and I've heard from people who work with you. Shit goes wrong during fashion week, and you are just really chill. And I run pretty high on anxiety. I don't think I'm alone here. How are you always so chill? Like, what are you taking?
I'm not taking anything, but I outside of vitamins. But I will say this: I tried losing my shit once, and it didn't work. It didn't make the situation better. It was like the hurricane of Fashion Week. We just lost 2 models about 30 minutes before our show was supposed to happen, and you fit everything to the model perfectly. I'm being offered like the last of the dregs of the people who didn't get picked for anything. And I was like, now I'm going to throw a tantrum. And I threw one, and I was not calm at all. And guess what happened? Nothing. It didn't work, except I just caused more people to feel that anxiety and have that ripple out. And so I just decided, like, if I can be calm, usually I can be more productive in life. And when I'm not calm, I go for a walk, and I don't have my phone, and I look out at things, and I point out things around me to get my sort of space out. And that's always helpful. So I highly recommend, for a long time, I hadn't seen the beauty of Manhattan. I had only seen the sidewalk and the ugly streets. Right. And then one day I was like, wait, look at how beautiful the city is. I haven't looked up in a long time. So I do recommend that when things can get bad, and they do for everybody.
I've heard of things getting bad for sure. And, things got bad for our family. We were in the Palisades, just had a baby. You were just such a good friend. And this is mom's first night out since then. Yeah. So only for Rebecca, who, is just a woman's woman. So I was looking through my photos when you first asked me to come here, and I found another one of these events 20 years ago, basically, that we did together. So came up in sort of this girl boss bitch era, but like always just stood for being a woman's woman. And I don't think everybody who outwardly stands for that does, but I can say from personal experience that you do. Like, you are just the ultimate woman's woman. I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you.
I have to give her props, because she's the reason I have a book at all. We were in a cab one night in Manhattan, and she said, why don't you write a book? And I was like, I don't want to do a coffee table book about like the history of handbags. Like, who needs that? And she's like, no, you should write a business book. And she talked me into it. She introduced me to her agent, which became my agent. And we did the book. And it's really because of you that I even have this. So yeah. And speaking of
women helping women. I think you really believe, though, that, there is space for more women at a panel. Some people feel like, I want to be the woman on the panel. And you're just like, let's have a bigger panel.
Yeah. And I think in the book, you'll see that. Like, I was very much an outsider as I came into the fashion industry. Back then, 100 years ago, in the olden days, there was just selling to a retailer and a magazine were your only portals to reaching your customer. And we didn't have money to advertise, and we didn't have necessarily, a brand name that people recognize that they would take in their stores. And so it sort of was that, like, okay, I'm coming in from the outside. Anna doesn't like me. She still doesn't. And I got to make my own way. And then when you feel that way, you're like, oh, good, you're an outsider. You got to come in. Oh, wait, there can be more of us. And there isn't that mentality of there can only be one, because we all add a different flavor to the room. And to me, it makes it better.
There's a collective, if you will.
Yeah.
And how was writing the book and the process?
So before I wrote the book,
I warn you?
You warned me. You warned me, and I didn't believe you. So for any authors out there, I would look on Instagram and I'm like, oh, I just spent 12 hours writing. And I'd be like, losers. It's not that hard, you guys. And then I did it, and I was like, it's fucking hard. It's really hard. You're telling a story, at least when it's, I don't know what it's like to write fiction, but when you're telling your own story, you're sort of questioning, like, does someone find this interesting? Is there going to be a lesson in this? How do I edit and frame the book and keep it concise and have each chapter be entertaining, but you also learn something? And that's a lot of work. And it was COVID. And we were quarantining in a place where like I didn't have my own space. So I would go into the bathroom in our bedroom, which so there was 2 doors separating me and my 3 children at the time. And so like that, like writing on the toilet or in the grocery store, I would dictate. I'd be like, honey, I'm going to go for a 3-hour grocery shop. I will be back. And I would dictate. And then the birth of a book is also difficult, which she also warned me about.
And now that I've had an actual human baby, I can attest that you don't get an epidural for writing a book. Way better that way.
Yeah. But the publishing of it is a lot of work and you learn a lot of new skills. And I just remember telling myself, how often is it that we get to learn something new? I've been doing the same thing for 20 years. I can close my eyes and know what it takes to produce a fashion show or a big event for something. But like the publishing of a book, let me enjoy and suck the life out of this, not knowing. And you come out and I mean, to me, it was thrilling to like in 2021 when we had the hardback to go, okay, we did a book launch during COVID. Now I know how to do that. Or now on the paperback tour, now we know how to do this. So I think it's fun to like pour into something that you know nothing about and try and figure it out.
And you've crushed it as usual. And this new paperback has an extra chapter that is so near and dear to my heart.
It is. So if you don't know Nicole as an author, as an incredible best-selling author, she writes and talks about money. So she is far more of an expert in this arena than I.
No, let's talk about it.
But as someone who was taking most of my money and financial advice from Instagram, I was like, you know what? Looking back, what are the things I wished I had known in my journey? I think, you know, as a founder who had nothing, and then my first, you know, salary in New York was $23,000 a year. And then, you know, the only reason I had a savings account was because an ex-boyfriend forced me to open one. There was just things that I said, okay, if I can show anyone how early they should start saving, how I saved, you know, the impact it makes, us being at a table with women and not being like, here's my baby and this is my sex life, but like, what are you making in the stock market tonight? And are you invested in this? And what if we started talking about that as our go-to at a cocktail party after this event, instead of what we will normally go to? How would that change how we succeed? And that to me felt important because you can have a dream and might not pan out as you thought, and you better have some fucking money saved.
I mean, I've seen that for a lot of female founders who've had big exits. And at the height of Rebecca Minkoff, you guys were at 115 million.
Yeah.
You did a private equity round, you sold to a brand. I have a girlfriend who had a big exit and put all of her money in a Bank of America account. And I was so upset at her because you're running these big P&Ls, right? And you have a whole other business language. But then why do you think you're not able to do it for yourself personally?
I think that some women just don't, when it comes to them, they don't, or at least even for myself up until the last, I would say 5 to 7 years, they're just like, oh, I'll worry about it later. You know, when that pot of gold comes at the end of the round, then I'll get financially fluent. And we have to be that fluent. Now, if I had known as a starting designer, even, you know, just financially within the business, been more educated, the different decisions I would have made. And it took my brother yelling at me saying, you need to understand the language of business if you're going to be a successful designer. I hated him for it at the time. But it really changed how I think as a designer and as a businesswoman. And, you know, when I interview women who have launched brands that formerly weren't in finance, boy, their decisions are different and smarter. And they're often far more successful more quickly because of that.
I think it's a language, just like anything else. We just didn't have a Rosetta Stone for that language.
Like, we didn't.
Growing up, I wish we did. That's why the money school, we learn a lot of bananas things in school. And so it's really incumbent on us to teach ourselves. And I think it's incumbent also as parents to teach our kids about it because they're not learning it otherwise. So you said you would have done things differently, like what financially with your big fatty $23,000?
I wouldn't have done much different then because that didn't go very far. That let you eat some ramen noodles from the deli and pay rent. But I think the things we would have done, especially within the business, is we would have focused on having a healthy margin in our business rather than one day we'll figure that out. Let's just grow. And a lot of brands will do that, but then they're being funded and we weren't necessarily always taking in funding. I would have not just had a savings account that paid me, 0.2%. I would have probably invested in the stock market and done, things that I would do after I read your book.
Are you invested in the stock market?
I am.
And when did that start?
That started in late. It started like 2013, 2014.
So how do we open up more of a dialogue with our girlfriends in particular? If we're at dinner, we'll talk about everything before we talk about money, sexy time, bikini waxes, like everything is on the table. How do you start talking about what's in your portfolio?
I think I'm just asking women more pronouncedly, like, what are you doing that's, helping you succeed? And where are you putting those funds? And what's worked for you? What hasn't? And I think we just have to cross over that uncomfortable part of it, right? To get to that part that some women are like, I'm still not going to answer your question. I have a friend who'll ask me all day long all the questions. What are you making? What did this sell? And then I'll go to be like, so what are you making? And she's like, and she skirts around the issue. So
that's interesting because I sometimes think that when you're having any hard conversation, you have to go first if you want to have it, and you do go first, and still it's crickets.
With her, yes. I won't name her. I won't call her out. She's not here. So.
And speaking of being a woman's woman, I was so surprised when I saw you join Real Housewives.
Yes.
I was like, wow, this is
so were a lot of people.
So bold. I first thought it was brilliant, genius for the business. And I'd love to know what it did for the business because I know you know.
Yes.
But then I was like, she's going to hate this. I think I was right.
Am I doing right? Well, my book is called Fearless, right? And I think that women don't take enough risks and we let that feeling of fear stop us. What if I fail? What if I succeed? What if my investment goes away? And I think the book isn't there that you read it and the end of it, you're like, well, I'm fearless now. It's at all. It's really like,
but can you still flip your hair?
You can still flip your hair. Be like, I'm still scared, but guess what? We're going to do this anyways. That's the goal of the book, is that you have, 22 now sort of rules and lessons as told through my misadventures of times where I could have just stopped, said, this is too much, this is too scary, this is too risky. And I've learned to go, what's the worst that can happen? And if I can stomach that outcome, I'll jump. Maybe I didn't realize the worst that could have happened with Housewives, but I'm still here and still standing. And I learned so much. So the decision behind that was a couple of reasons. Not to give a long-winded story, but over COVID, our business shrunk by over 70%. We almost went out of business. It would have been easier to go out of business with how hard it was to keep everything going. We went down to just our own site. We went down to 20 people, pay cuts. We had inventory we didn't know what to do with. And so I thought to myself, wow, here's an opportunity to get the brand awareness back up by being on a national show. And at the time, what was pitched to me over and over again, it's a new direction. It's women celebrating women. We want to focus on 8 entrepreneurs, diverse entrepreneurs in New York City. And I was like, count me in. That sounds great. And after the first 2 times we filmed, I was like, that is not what I signed up for. And how am I going to survive this? And I was upfront from the very beginning. I was like, you won't find me talking bad about them. I'm not going to throw another one. I'm not going to be the rumor starter. And at the time, they're like, we don't need that from you. And I was like, okay, great. We are all aligned. We're all on the same page. And I guess that experiment didn't go so well. So I was like, I'm not here for this. I'm out. And there are some great things. You look at it, you go, wow, brand awareness is up 20% year over decade. Traffic would triple on Tuesday nights. It would stay doubled Wednesdays and Thursdays. To buy that type of traffic is very expensive. So that was great, but it wasn't worth the anxiety. It wasn't worth my attention being stolen from me, worrying about what Page 6 is writing when I want to do bath time with my kids. It wasn't valuable to me in that, I am at a different point in my life. These things that are now eating me up, that are rumors and tabloid and that is not worth my attention. And I can't contribute to it.
I mean, I think that's some of what you talk about in the book, what's the worst case scenario, but also what's the best case scenario. So best case scenario also happened, up 20% year over decade is huge. And that's something that you can't buy either.
Yeah. Or you can. It's just like, hundreds of millions of dollars.
So we're happy we did the show.
We're happy we did the show, and we're happy we're not going back. And I have other ideas for shows that would support women. My co-founder Allie is here from Female Founder Collective, and we were talking about an idea that would really support women and create a whole ecosystem around businesses and supporting them that would also be entertaining. So it's possible, and I think women are ready for that. You just don't want to. I get that someone wants to go home and check out and just watch other women tear each other down.
But I like. We don't act that way, do we?
No.
With our,
raise your hand if you do. I don't.
With my girlfriend.
But I think women are ready for something more, and so hopefully we can make that happen for them.
Would we watch that? Yes. We have to. Like, it has to have traction in order for it to be successful. But you're just such a woman's woman. I was like, there's no way she could tear anybody down.
No,
ever.
Just a little bit after, but just a little.
I think we're going to take some questions.
You can ask me anything. I'm here, and I'm very open. And if you are a founder, please say your business and what it is.
Or if you're a Real Housewives person, I've never seen an episode.
What's your internal creative process like?
So when it comes to design?
Yeah, when it comes to designing, or even like if you don't mind sharing, like how did you come up with the first Rebecca Minkoff handbag?
So the first Rebecca Minkoff handbag was I had an apparel line for about 4 years, sort of going into a nice amount of debt, about $60,000 on a credit card that I didn't know how I was going to pay back. And Jen Elfman, she's an actress. She's on Dark Winds right now, and Dharma and Greg. She had been the inspiration for the shirt that I had made that had gotten my name out there. And then she came back to me, and we were actually in LA having lunch. She's like, "Do you make bags?" And I was like, "Totally. I make the best bags, Jenna." No idea. She's like, "Good. Well, I need a bag for a character. I need the bag in 2 weeks." And so I had it made. I knew where to get bags made in the city because I'd already been making leather jackets as part of my collection. And so that first idea was meant on, I used to love going to the New York Public Library. This is pre-internet, guys. And they had these, just these old sketch files that you could just flip through different eras. And there was all these old travel bags. And so the original Morning After bag was based on this old sort of satchel. And then I was like, where do you get hardware in the city? Oh, at Home Depot. And so I went to Home Depot and got the hardware for the dog clips that are now like a huge part of our iconography. And I would find all the Home Depots and go get all their dog clips. And so it was really built on this old sort of old-fashioned like man's big oversized satchel that was probably like this big. And then I shrunk it. And the first one was a brown canvas bag with faux croc metallic brown. And then Daily Candy wrote about it. Who's old enough to remember Daily Candy? Yes, I love it.
This is such a big deal then.
Yeah, it was a huge deal. So they wrote about it. The title of the article was The Catwalk of Shame. And it sold out of a store here in LA called Satine that my friend Ilaria was the buyer for. So that was the beginning. And now my design process is like, it usually starts with travel or like something hits me, and then I'm like, okay, good. And I'll build a mood board. And then these days, I was asked this 2 nights ago, like, are you still sketching? I am not. I'd be lying to you if I said I do. But I have a team. So I'll sort of hand off the mood board, the theme, the idea. And then my SVP of design has been with me for 19 years. So we are one person. We talk the same. Our husbands could not tell us apart. And, if we were both, calling at them. And so she now knows, and then she'll build the collection. And then I'm like, yes, no, tweak this. And it kind of goes from there. And that took a long time for me to get comfortable with that. It took a third baby and a real dark moment for me, doubting myself and my creativity and everything. And when I came back from that, I was like, it's okay. I've been doing this for 17 years. I can expand what I do and evolve and learn other things. And so that's what allows me to write a book or do a podcast or work on Female Founder Collective with Allie. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do that. Yeah. We'll go 1, 2, and then 3. Yeah. I
have a creativity line that I run with my mom. We founded it based off of my chronic illnesses. I have chronic Lyme disease amongst other illnesses. But my question for you is, when you started into entrepreneurship, how did your family take it? Like your family and extended family, was it kind of like going against the grain where they're like, what is she doing? Like, what's this newfangled business that she's doing? Like, how did they view your kind of going off the beaten path?
So that was, I would say, more encouraged than any traditional upbringing. Anything we wanted in our household, we had to work and earn for it. So that was normal to me. And when we got to the talking about college, it was like, you can go if you want to pay for it. And then when I was like, well, I don't want to go, they're like, great, get a job. And I was like, okay, I'm going to move to New York City, and I got a paid internship. They're like, great, how are you going to pay for it? So there was always this mentality growing up, if you want it, earn it. And so no one was shocked when I launched my business. It was just more like, figure it out. Good luck. We love you. We're sending you so much love.
But something maybe is important to talk about. You started the company with your brother.
Yep.
He put the.
Well, I started it, and then when I called my dad for some money, and he was like, "No way, call your brother." That's when we like got official.
And he put a bunch of money on his credit card
Yep.
originally.
He maxed out his Amex, and then he mortgaged his house once the numbers started climbing. So we went from like very quickly with Daily Candy and with Satine, and like celebrities were starting to wear the bag. You could see the numbers going. So it's not like he funded something that he didn't see heat behind. It was like, $50,000 order, then, 100, 250. And then he was like, okay, this thing keeps going.
Totally. He was lucky enough to invest in the beginning.
He was lucky.
Yeah, that's right, Yuri. But you didn't have the conversation about equity.
Yes.
Until you guys had an offer from PE.
Yes.
If anyone's going into business with a family member or a friend, what would you have told your former self?
A lot. I would say have, again, another uncomfortable conversation. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're willing to help me. Let's get things defined now. There was nothing defined. There was nothing in writing until 6 years in. By then, he mortgaged his house. He maxed out his credit card. He was not taking a salary. I was making my $23,000 a year. He was renting a room in my apartment, not only because he was commuting and traveling up, but also like that allowed us to have no roommates. So there was a lot of interwovenness to our life. And then you go, all right, now the big money's come in. Now let's talk. Wrong time. And I was pregnant with my first. So I'm also extra emotional and feeling vulnerable. And that's a terrible, and to sit there with your mom and your dad and your brother and you're negotiating your equity, it's like bad. It's just bad. So I would say to anyone who has a friend and a partner, a family member, like get it all out in the beginning. And you are signing up for something that's, is going to be hard and challenging. This is the hardest thing you could ever do. And so who's this person that's going to be with you through thick and through thin? And it's a lot easier if it's all in writing and covered off in the beginning.
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll take it. Yeah, say the name.
It's My July, and our website is myjulyskin.com.
Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Diana Nguyen, and I am a founder, part of the 10th House.
Yay!
My business is Madison Savile, so it's women's inspirational blazers and workwear.
Nice.
So I'm very much looking forward to this because I feel like I'm very much in the thick of it. Spent all the savings in the debt that you talk about. I'm on my second collection, came from finance. So resonating at every level that you've been saying. And my question is, especially in this economy right now, and a fashion brand, because I get a lot of advisors like, you are in a very saturated market. It's going to be very difficult for you. And I'm like, I know. I'm doing a Kickstarter for my second collection. What would be your advice right now for brands such as myself in such a saturated market to stand out, especially, taking out an SBA loan and spent all that on advertising, which did nothing.
Right.
And so it gets that feeling of you're like the seedling trying to break out of ground.
Yeah.
And then more dirt gets dumped on you, and you're like, great.
That's a great analogy. I would say to zone in on who your customer is. Is it the working woman who's too busy to find stylish things? Where is she in pain, and how do you get to her? Is it through personalized shoppers. There's a whole subset and underbelly of a world of stylists that just shop for women like that. You know, do you get in with them? Do you solve that problem? And I think, you know, poor Allie has to listen to me a lot, but I'm like, I'm obsessed with the idea. And if I had the time and I didn't have 4 kids, of Tupperware parties. Like, who are your 10, you know, who are your 10 people in 10 different parts of the country that can invite their 25 friends, and you go on the road with your stuff like I used to do. And I say this because I used to do it. A friend of mine and my friend Marisol's used to throw these parties, and I'd show up with my bags, wine and cheese, left with cash. And then they would tell their friends and it would grow. And so, and you'll learn a lot. You're going to meet your first customers. They're going to give you feedback in real time, and you can tweak things. But I think we can't rely on traditional advertising anymore. And so it's like, what are the other sort of more analog ways you can reach your customer today?
Maybe piggybacking on that for consumer products companies, when you saw death in its eye during COVID with the business, also a previous round of tariffs were in place. We're talking tariffs now. I know this is kind of boring, but like, I think it's important. Can you give any advice about that from a consumer product standpoint for founders?
Yeah, I mean, the tariffs that hit us the first time around, we were supposed to make money that year. We lost money. That was going to be our first year of profitability, believe it or not. That went off the table. Then COVID hit right at then. Then we were, you know, business shrank and we almost went out of business. So I would say that while it was beneficial to get out of China for our margins, you know, I think you just have to hedge your bets and make sure where you're manufacturing isn't on his radar. And try and have.
So where do we hide?
Where do you hide?
You guys went to Vietnam, right?
We went to Vietnam and Indonesia. But I think it's diversifying. Just like you're going to diversify your portfolio, you have to have, you know, a little bit made in LA, a little bit made in New York, Mexico, you know, China, Vietnam. Like, it's more of a pain in the ass for sure. But also, we've noticed that when we have several factories, not just one, we can leverage negotiations between them and often get better pricing. You have a question?
I'm Natalie. I have my own bag brand.
Hold it up because it's so stinking cute.
LA collection or little wristlets. We actually saw Jill Roberts, which is down the street. This is a new one in denim. And we were talking earlier, I have so many questions, but one I feel like would be relevant for this conversation. What's your advice when it comes to outsourcing and delegating? Like, I'm doing everything on my own right now. I've had this brand for about 2 years. I'm hesitant to give anybody else responsibility because obviously it's all in my mind and I have the goals and I feel the most motivated. So when do you know that it's time?
I think when you find yourself, like I found myself unable to go to buy leather, take it to the factory, like load him up with all the things, but then I had orders at home that I had to process and I was doing everything, that I was like, okay, now I'm choosing between getting more sales and making bags. And I started with a paid intern who then ended up living with me. So she got to work all the time with me. So great. We're still friends to this day. And I would just, you have to find a mini you. Today's not the day you're like, I'm going to hire a CMO and a COO and a blah, blah, blah. Like, you need to hire someone that can just be at your beck and call and run your errands and do all the stuff that takes you off of what you do best. And I'd say when you get a little bigger, that's when you start hiring for specialty. Like right now, you just need another little animal. Like when I say animal in a good way, like a workhorse that's just excited and can do all that stuff. And the minute you see it hurting your sales, that's when I would say, okay, now I need to hire.
To piggyback on that, I'm on this big kick too. There, we always talk about how does she do it all? Because you have 4 kids and, you know, a podcast and Female Founder Collective and Rebecca Minkoff and all the things. But who's supporting you and how much does that cost? So can you give us a sense of like who's at home supporting you there and what does that cost?
Yes. So I just want to remind us all, because we've all been told to forget, that we all had a village once. We all lived in villages and we had support systems and grandmothers and sisters. And then that went away. And now it's like, have a baby by yourself, do it with no support and be successful. And it's just a lie. So we just have to go, like, the original concept was these villages. So I took time. It's not like I immediately, you know what I was making. I couldn't hire my village, but I have a very supportive husband who is also very successful. But when he's home, he's not babysitter. He's dad. He's home with 2 out of the 4. I got 2 on screens in the back.
Hey guys.
He's doing bath time, bedtime, school lunches, and taking them to school for the 4 days that I'm gone. And I do the same when he's out of town. And so that was like, you have to get your partner on the same page. Brodsky might have a book. Do you sell Fair Play here?
Yes.
Okay. Brodsky has an incredible book called Fair Play that Allie introduced me to about getting your partner on the same page as you with it when it comes to the household. I have a babysitter, and she's also our housekeeper. So I get like, okay, I'm not doing laundry or dishes anymore, and she's picking the kids up from school and helping until we're done with work. And so that's my like, and then we moved and we split our time between Florida and New York. I have my parents. So my mom will come take my kid to Hebrew lessons. And so that's kind of the home village. And then the work village is, I have a CEO, I have my SVP of design. There's about 25 of us at Rebecca Minkoff, and they're keeping the ship going every day. And then, of course, my co-founder, Allie, runs Female Founder Collective. We have a team of 8, and she steers that ship every day and has done an amazing job. So I'm not alone by any stretch. I'm the mouthpiece, for a lot of it, but I'm alone. And then for my podcast, I have an editor and I have someone that helps on the social, and, it just keeps going. You name the arena, I have someone helping me in that. I have someone helping me on my personal social now. Like, I'm taking the videos, but she's putting them up. So as I've been able to expand, I'm like, okay, good. Now that's the next person. And that can seem overwhelming, but I've also done this for 20 years. So as you go home, you're like, oh, I need to do this and I can't. Well, like, give yourself, all this is probably escalated in the last 5. Before that, it's lean. It's a lean
I think
team.
it's important because we think like, oh, if we just slept less or if we did more.
No, I'm going to share a really funny story. There is a woman in New York that I followed that I was like, she does do it all. She actually does. You see her wake up at 5 and she's energetic and she gets her exercise in. Then she makes family like a perfect looking chef-worthy breakfast, lunches. Huh? No, I'm going to tell you the end of the story, which is why you're all going to laugh in a second. Then does the perfect dinner, the homework, whatever. Then goes out, has like 2 martinis and like does it all the next day. And I have a friend who I was like, I'm failing. Like, I can't compete with that. She's like, she's on drugs. That's why. I was like, oh, it makes sense. She's doing cocaine. Okay, I guess that's how you do it. But honestly, not that I want anyone to do drugs and I don't recommend them, but I was like, that is the only way to get, like, it's artificial. Like, we all have to build our village and do it the organic way. It's not possible. Yeah.
I'm Laura. I'm also in the 10th house.
Yay.
I was a female
Yay.
administrator the day before, which is why I'm here.
Yes.
I am a speaker and a life coach, and I work with people around creative integrity.
Yes.
I was also a designer for 25 years.
Oh, nice.
And really burned out several times in my career.
Yes.
So I'd love to know from you, how have you dealt with creative burnout in yourself, and how do you deal with that in your team?
Yeah. So I have a whole chapter dedicated to burnout.
Okay.
No scented candle in the world is going to cure your burnout, nor will a massage and massage chair. I began to look at patterns of when I had burnout, and I've definitely had it. I had times where I was like, the last thing I want to do is get up and go to the office and try and be creative. Or right before I had my 7-year-old, feeling like I was the least creative I ever was. I was trying to make that next hit, as designers are tasked with doing. Once you've had a couple, it's like any actress or musician, like, you're chasing it. And I couldn't figure it out. And I sort of looked around me and I said, when am I feeling like this? It's when my purpose, I'm not fulfilling that, when I failed at my purpose. So what is it? And that can change in your career. If my purpose in the beginning was, I just wanted to make really incredible bags that make women feel confident, but I then changed to like, oh, I have an and. I want to make women feel successful and powerful. If I'm not achieving that, then that dims it a bit. But I also had to look around and said, who's in my environment that's really negative? Who's bringing me down? Who's that like, oh, you look so great, Nicole, right? Who really doesn't mean it. And there was a lot of those people in my office working with me. You can't be creative and successful when you have these internal. I had a black widow a single white female in my office, right? She was my head of design. And so by eliminating these people and recognizing when you're like, I just don't feel good anymore when I'm with that person, that weeding that out of my life was phenomenal, and I highly recommend it as an activity. You don't like them, you don't feel good when you leave them, don't keep them around.
It's a good litmus test. I also think you talk about this idea that, self-care could be a scented candle or a massage, and we all love deep tissue massages, but self-care is also like getting your finances together, going to the doctor, doing boring things.
Yeah,
to take
it's a
care of
huge part of
yourself.
self-care. You'll have a lot more money for the scented candles if you do the financial self-care
That's right.
first.
Anything else?
One thing before I forget is at Female Founder Collective, we launched these shirts right after the LA fires, which I'm wearing here. 100% of the proceeds go to women-owned businesses who lost their businesses here. And we've raised about $150,000. We've given out about half of that. So there's shirts here. If you want, the minimum donation is $100, but you can donate as much as you want and we'll keep the grant going. So
Thank you for doing that.
yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I would like to know during this whole time, what was the easiest success that you achieved? You said like this was the easiest, and then you did all the hard work, and then you feel like you gained. Can you give some example, like tangible example of how you achieved something so easy come to you with least amount of effort compared to work really hard?
It's like 99 hard all the time. And then you get these breaks. So I'd say the morning after bag was the break after 4 years of having a clothing line and sort of failing at it.
Yeah, it's like overnight success, 10 years in the making.
100%. Yeah. So that morning after bag lasted, that wind in my sales lasted for probably 5-7 years. And then it was like, okay, what's next? And then we got lucky. I don't want to say lucky. I had passed by a department store that had copied one of my bags, but shrunk it down. And they were also carrying my bags. So I bought the bag and I was preparing to show this vendor when they came in, like, hey, why are you copying my bag exactly? Thanks a lot. And I was very excited with my plan. And my president, she's like, we're not going to do that. We're going to make it that size and take it back and make it $195. And that was the birth of the Morning After Mini Clutch that grew our business by like 500%. So that was another moment where it was like the price of the bag, the size, the style, as women were now on their phones and needed hands-free. So you think you can always be in control and cause it. And then sometimes it's the most random things. So I think, what I tell people is like, when you get those moments, you hold on for dear life and you swim as fast as you can to like keep the momentum going. But it's 99% a slog all the time.
You mentioned something about the copy. Did you ever during this time, because I struggle with that, someone would copy?
Oh, people copy all the time. Yeah. You can, in our world, there have to be 30 points of differentiation for us to even begin a lawsuit. And when you start adding up how much time and effort it's going to take, sometimes it's better just to be like, I'm moving on. And now with social media, if it does get really bad, you can call them out and shame them. So.
And you've had some wins. Oh,
Maybe like one more question.
Okay.
Sure. And also, speaking of social media, you've now been on the receiving end of brand deals, and you were the one hiring influencers before.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Are you surprised by the check size that you get? Big or small?
I think that because people don't view me as an influencer necessarily in the modern sense, I think that influencers are probably tasked and getting more money, but have much more deliverables in terms of, we want you to link influencer A, we want you to link this bag and it has to sell out. And people are using me more to just bring brand awareness. And sometimes the checks are small. I have yet to get a huge check. I was asked if I would take a check from Wendy's, and I was like, not on brand. It would have to be grass-fed meat or tallow beef fries for me to sign on. But I think more the way that I think
How
about
much was the check
what
for Wendy's?
No, he said if Wendy's came to you. No.
What if they gave you, $5 million?
I would make them make a grass-fed burger, because I also think in these days you have to be authentic. And I don't let my kids eat fast food. We'll go to Shake Shack because I know the meat is good. At least they say it's good. But I think you lose your customer when you're not authentic. I was offered, I think, $100,000 to do Dove deodorant with aluminum in it. Well, guess what? I don't use, and I think that aluminum is toxic to you. So I turned it down. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. If you want to come up with a non-aluminum deodorant, I'm here for it. But I think you can't say yes to everything because it has a nice dollar sign, because then people don't know what to trust you for.
So what if you were offered $1 billion to go back to Real Housewives?
$1 billion? How about $1 billion with an apology?
Oh,
Yeah?
like public or private?
Public.
Okay.
Yeah, I might come back. Sure, why not?
Andy, you heard it here. Let's go.
I want to take a selfie with everyone before we wrap.
We have one more question.
Oh, yes.
Oh, sorry. Hi. It feels like there's a new brand every day. I'm sure we all feel like that. I feel like I get the thing testing emails and it feels like there's a million of everything. How important are incubators and accelerators, and is there a path that you recommend, or is there a point in applying to every single one and seeing what you get into? How do you think you should?
For an accelerator?
Yeah, incubators and accelerators.
I think Allie's better suited to answer that question, if I can put you on the spot.
What was the question?
Like all the accelerators, who should apply, when you should apply, how do you even know if you qualify?
In general, for an accelerator, or something we do? Yeah, in general. Do you think they were all worth it? There's so many.
It's totally, unfortunately, dependent on which accelerator. I can't see who this is. Oh, there
This
you go.
beautiful woman in red.
It totally is dependent on the accelerator, unfortunately. So some of them will take a portion of your business as part of the process. And you might ask yourself, is that worth it? For some accelerators, it actually really is, because you're getting this incredible network. It's going to give you the ability to get your product into certain key retailers, or they have, you're going to be able to get if you have a software as a service business, these key contracts, because they're already set up with all these different, Fortune 500 businesses that would immediately equal massive valuation for your business. So you really have to do your homework and also ask to speak to people that have been through the program to see what their real take is on whether or not it was valuable for them.
And we're going to hang out for a little bit. So if you have questions about Female Founder Collective or 10th House, me and Allie can answer any questions you have. If you have questions about money, please. I don't know how long. This is first Mama's night out, so I don't know how long she's staying with us, but
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so crowd in so we can get a fun
Is
selfie.
this the Ellen thing?
This is the Ellen
Okay,
thing.
cool.
We did it at Female Founder Collective, and it was so
Heck
fun.
yeah. Okay, great.
So everyone has to do your best sorority squat and come in close. If you want. No pressure to anyone that doesn't want to. That? Yeah, we're all squeezing in. Okay. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. We'll do several. We'll turn. We're gonna do like a panorama. Here, you go right here, so you're not cut down. Okay, we're gonna do 3. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Yay! And did we get? Yeah, we got everybody, right? Okay, good. Except the men in the back.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
the brave men.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you. Yes, signing.
Books for sale, shirts for sale, and they'll sign your books right here.
Oh, yay.
Oh, we need to give the name on it, and it's like landed the heart rate on the sticky notes.
I know.